Welcome to 6 Pathways to Happiness on YouTube. This is an introduction of where you can start so you can understand how to best utilize this site. This YouTube channel is offered to those interested in learning meditation in a step-by-step way. And it's suggested that people follow the standard method for practice. Please avoid trying out multiple meditations. Doing meditation buffet style will often lead to problems, just as overeating at the buffet leads to being stuffed and uncomfortable. We all know about that. But for those of you who are interested in a deeper understanding, you can get a copy of a book by Xiankuan called The 6 Pathways to Happiness. It's available through the monastery, Maba, or on Amazon. Although I understand that Amazon may have sold out, so that's maybe a good thing. We'll see. What you will find on this site is going to the playlist. You will find different guided meditations. There's a bar along the top that has playlist as an option. And then each playlist has an option where you can press view playlist or view entire playlist. I recommend that when you go to the playlist. Otherwise, if you just hit the video, it'll start playing the first video. So the playlist has meditations to calm the mind, meditations for insight, meditations to cultivate kindness, and more advanced meditations. There are also various talks on Buddhist psychology. There are some general talks, just called talks, which are stories and some principles. And then there are Dharma talks. These are more formal talks on Buddhist psychology, many of which I've given at one of the monasteries. Then there are also some cognitive behavioral therapy talks and techniques. There are 9, 10-minute or so CBT talks that parallel the book Mind Over Mood by Greenberger and Podesky. And there are some relaxation methods that are commonly done in behavioral medicine. The meditation methods that are presented here are a synthesis of various techniques. First, the ones that were taught by the Buddha 2,500 years ago, as found in the original discourses. Second, there are some adapted by the Mahayana schools in China, most notably Chan, also known as Zen in Japan. And third, some have been adapted further for practitioners in the West, but as few modifications as possible. You'll find that the meditations that are presented here are very faithful to techniques that have been practiced for thousands of years. If it's not broken, don't fix it. The 6-pathway model that I presented here are these methods and techniques presented designed to help us decrease and eventually stop suffering, mental suffering. That's why we call it Buddhist psychology. The Buddhist principles presented are psychological and not religious in nature. Certainly not the way that we would define religion in the West. The foundation of this model, however, presumes that to make progress in decreasing our suffering, we need to follow 5 important moral principles. And information about these 5 precepts are easily found on many websites and books. Refrain from killing people, please. Refrain from stealing. Refrain from sexual misconduct. Refrain from harmful speech. And refrain from becoming intoxicated. That dulls the mind. The organization of this channel is based on how each playlist contains different meditations. Each guided meditation is preceded with a talk explaining the method. And it's best to start with meditations to calm the mind. Shamatha in Pali. If the mind is too noisy, insight and kindness are very difficult to cultivate. I'm showing you a map here of 6 pathways to happiness, where from the foundation at the bottom, we cultivate calm abiding, we cultivate clear insight, and we cultivate loving kindness. These are the primary models that we're going to be following here. The higher level practice, sometimes called the supramundane, concentration, wisdom, and commitment to the bodhisattva path, leading to liberation, that's something that's much more advanced. But here we're going to work on learning how to calm the mind, how to gain insight into the mind, and how to cultivate loving kindness and compassion. So when you go to the playlist on calmness, how to calm the mind, you're going to develop these practices called the 4-minute breathing meditation. And then when you get comfortable with that, you can do the 10-minute breathing meditation. It's good to develop this practice on a regular basis twice a day. Early in the morning and early in the evening are really the best times to practice, but whatever your schedule will allow, 4 minutes, not so long. If the hardest part is the first moment of moving from your daily habitual behavior into sitting, even if it's just for a short time, it's beneficial. After attaining some calmness and less chatter in the mind, you'll know it. It's good to move on to meditation of the body. There are several methods that are offered. Some are 10 minutes and some are 20 minutes. So we develop this mindfulness of the body first. And then when we cultivate some insight along with our calmness, then we want to cultivate some loving kindness. And there are several methods that are offered in that section. Loving kindness and compassion particularly. Now there are additional meditations and methods that are also available for intermediate practitioners and even for some more advanced folks. Here are some beginner and intermediate methods that are offered. The 4 and 10 minute meditation for beginners, the mindfulness of the body, and then for intermediates, mindfulness of feeling, more advanced mindfulness of mind, mindfulness of phenomenon. In the loving kindness section on the playlist, we start with loving kindness. After we practice that for a while, compassion, and then more advanced are altruistic joy and equanimity. There's even a section on even more advanced practices for people as well. It's good to check with your teacher to make sure when you're ready for these. Oftentimes, the teacher will talk with you about what it is that you're doing and will have an understanding of your mind and how soon you should move from one practice to the other. Many times for myself, I've been involved in doing a practice for months or even years before I feel ready to go on to something else. So, for example, when I practiced loving kindness in meditation, I did that for 4 years before I was ready to move on to something more advanced. We hope you enjoy and benefit from this practice. And if you have any questions or comments, you can contact Xiankuan at the donshushu@cbt-stl.com. So we hope that this short presentation will help guide you through this series of playlists in a more smooth and easy manner. And again, start with meditations to calm the mind. That's always a good place to start. So I wish you all well and to be safe and happy and to be able to develop your practice in a way that is helpful to you, your family, your community. Thank you so much. Please practice well.